Kenya is one of the most unforgettable destinations on earth, but planning the perfect trip here, that's where things can get a bit overwhelming. In this video, we answer all your questions to help you plan the ultimate Kenyan adventure, from the best safari parks and lodges to real costs, hidden gems and must-do experiences. Join us as we explore which safari parks are truly worth it, how to choose the right tour operator, and what else there is to do to discover beyond Kenya's incredible wildlife. In Kenya, there are countless national parks to choose from, each offering its own unique wildlife and safari experience. And which one is right for you really comes down to what you're looking for. But there are two standout parks that most travelers consider, and we'll start with Amboseli National Park. Often called the Land of Giants, Amboseli is famous for its incredible elephant herds. We spent 3 days here and witnessed hundreds of elephants roaming freely in their natural habitat. What makes Amboseli even more special is how close you get to the wildlife. Thanks to the park's open landscapes and well-designed tracks, you'll experience some of the most close-up encounters anywhere in the world. At times, elephants were just meters away from our safari vehicle. If you're looking to see African elephants up close, then Amboseli National Park is an absolute must on your Kenyan itinerary. We recommend spending around 3 days here to fully experience the park. At roughly 390 square kilometers, Amboseli isn't one of Kenya's largest parks, but that's actually what makes it so special. Most tour operators only include 2 days in their packages, but in our experience, adding a third day gives you the time to truly appreciate the wildlife, landscapes, and unique rhythm of the park. So when you're booking your safari, it's worth customizing your itinerary to include that extra day. Another thing that makes Amboseli National Park so special is its incredible setting beneath Mount Kilimanjaro, right on the border with Tanzania. If the weather plays nice, you'll be rewarded with clear views of Africa's highest mountain towering in the background, something that truly sets Amboseli apart from other parks. As you can see on your screen, there's also plenty of other wildlife here. But one thing to keep in mind, if you're hoping to spot big cats, then Amboseli isn't the strongest choice. Lions do exist here, but sightings are far less common compared to places like the Masai Mara. In fact, during our 3 days in the park, we didn't see any big cats at all. Now let's explore the Masai Mara National Reserve. This is considered Kenya's premier park, and it's home to an abundance of wildlife. In particular, it's the home of the big cats. This is where you want to spend a good amount of time. The Masai Mara is more expensive than most parks in Kenya, largely due to its higher park fees. At the time of visiting, it cost around $200 per person per day just to enter the reserve. These fees are designed to help manage visitor numbers and protect the ecosystem. Though even with that in place, the Masai Mara can still feel quite busy. But despite the cost, it's absolutely worth it. We spent 4 nights here, and that really felt like the sweet spot. It's a much larger reserve than Amboseli, so each day gives you the chance to explore completely different areas and wildlife zones. The leopard is known as one of Africa's most elusive animals, but here in the Masai Mara, we were spotting at least one every single day. On top of that, we saw countless lions and cheetahs throughout the park. This is also where you witness raw predator action. We watched lions attempt to take down buffaloes and cheetahs chasing down gazelles across the plains. The open landscapes of the Masai Mara make it all possible, giving you visibility for hundreds of meters and a front row seat to some of the most intense wildlife encounters on Earth. The best game drives are early in the morning and again late in the afternoon. This is when the big cats are most active and on the hunt. Some tour operators offer full-day safaris, but in reality, after around 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning, most animals retreat into the shade to rest and sightings become far less frequent. We did try one full-day safari to experience it for ourselves, but for the rest of our stay, we asked our driver to split the day into 2 game drives. We'd head out from 6 o'clock to 10 o'clock in the morning, and then again from around 3:30 to 6 o'clock in the afternoon, and that's when we saw the most action. It's also worth visiting the Mara River, which runs along the border of Tanzania's Serengeti National Park. In certain areas, you can step out of your vehicle with a guide and take a short walk along the riverbanks, where you might see elephants bathing in the water as well as crocodiles and hippos lurking below the surface. If you visit between June and August, you can witness the Great Migration, where thousands of wildebeest attempt to cross the river, risking their lives as crocodiles lie and wait beneath the water. While Amboseli and the Masai Mara are 2 of Kenya's most famous parks, getting between them can take over 10 hours of driving. So instead of spending an entire day on the road, it's worth planning a stopover along the way. We chose to spend one night at Lake Navatia, which is perfectly positioned between the two. After leaving Amboseli early in the morning, we arrived around lunchtime, and in the afternoon, we jumped on a boat safari to explore the lake's birdlife and spot hippos in the water. There is also a more popular alternative called Lake Nakuru National Park. However, it's slightly out of the way, and the experience there is mainly traditional jeep safaris. Lake Navatia, on the other hand, makes for the perfect stopover, not just because of its location, but because it offers something different. Here, you can take a boat safari, which is a refreshing change from the jeep safaris you'll be doing in Amboseli and the Masai Mara. When you're at Lake Navatia, you'll also notice young locals in the water. Many of them fish here to support their livelihoods, as Lake Navatia plays an important role in Kenya's fishing industry. However, sharing the water with hippos is not without risk, and each year there are occasional tragic encounters between fishermen and wildlife. After spending around 2 hours out on the lake, there's also the option to continue the experience with a guided walking safari. Within a fenced reserve with no predators, you can safely explore the area on foot and get up close to the wildlife. We found this to be a completely different perspective, as it gave us the chance to experience some of Africa's most iconic animals face to face. Also located just a short 10-minute drive from Lake Navatia is Hell's Gate National Park. We chose to visit here in the morning before continuing our journey to the Masai Mara. Hell's Gate is famous for inspiring the landscape seen in Disney's The Lion King. While lions aren't typically found here, it offers a completely different kind of safari experience. Cycling through the park, you're surrounded by dramatic cliffs, open plains, and wildlife along the way, making it just as much about the scenery as the animals themselves. The main track is a 16-kilometer out and back route, making it the perfect morning activity before continuing your journey. Choosing the right safari company is one of the most important decisions you'll make when planning your trip. There are a range of factors to consider, and it's worth noting that international operators often come at a significantly higher cost than local companies. After reaching out to several agencies, we chose Meat Trail Safaris, and they certainly didn't disappoint. Not only did they provide a great value and they organised high quality accommodation, but their experienced guides knew exactly where to go for the best wildlife sightings. Meat Trail Safaris were able to fully customise our trip exactly the way we wanted. When it came to accommodation, they booked us into some incredible lodges, including the Zebra Plains Mara Camp and the Masai Mara. This was a boutique, luxury-style tented camp, and honestly, for the price, it's hard to beat. I can confidently say you'll struggle to find better value elsewhere. They really nailed that balance between high-quality accommodation and a reasonable price. We'll break down the full cost of everything at the end of the video. But Zebra Plains was easily one of the best accommodation experiences we've ever had, and the staff were absolutely incredible. When booking with a safari company, your package will usually include all meals. At Zebra Plains, they offered buffet-style breakfast, lunch and dinner, and we could sit and enjoy it all while overlooking the open Mara Plains. Most safari operators do include meals in their pricing, but not all of them cover everything, so it's really important to double check what's included in your itinerary to avoid any hidden costs. Typically, the only thing you'll need to pay extra is for drinks. In Amboseli, we stayed at Amboseli Sopa Lodge, and this place was an absolute gem. The themed rooms and overall layout of the property were incredible, and it really gave us that authentic safari feel. The food was excellent, and once again the staff were outstanding. Sopa Lodges are actually a well-known chain, with properties located across several national parks in Kenya. An important factor to consider when choosing your lodge is its location. One downside of Amboseli's Sopa Lodge, and something we didn't fully think about when planning with meat trail safaris, was a distance to the national park. Ideally, you'll want to stay as close to the park entrance as possible to minimise travel time for each game drive. Our lodge was about a 30-minute drive to the Amboseli gate, and we definitely felt it. We spent a fair bit of time each day just driving to and from the park. Now, one of the biggest things to keep in mind when booking with a safari company is whether or not park fees are included in the price. You'll want to make sure your quote clearly includes these fees, because if it doesn't, you could end up paying a lot more on the spot. As we mentioned earlier, entrance fees for the Masai Mara can be around $200 per person per day. So while some safari quotes might seem really cheap at first, it's often because park fees aren't included. Kenya isn't just about wildlife and national parks. It's also home to some of the most stunning coastline in the world, set along the Indian Ocean. After a long and tiring safari, this is a perfect way to unwind. From Nairobi, it's just a short 1-hour flight to the coast, where you can completely relax and switch off. There are plenty of incredible coastline destinations to choose from, including Mombasa and Watamu. We decided to spend a few days after our safari in Diani Beach, staying at Swahili Beach Resort. Here, the sand is bright white, the water is crystal clear, and the facilities are incredible, with 11 swimming pools on site, as well as 5 restaurants and bars. Many of the resorts also offer boat trips and snorkeling tours, and the prices are actually very reasonable. The atmosphere here feels completely different from the rest of Kenya, much more relaxed and coastal. One thing to be aware of, however, is that when you walk along the beach, you'll likely be approached by locals selling goods and tours. It can feel a bit overwhelming at first, but once you politely let them know you're not interested, they'll usually leave you alone so you can enjoy your time. Now let's go on a quick room tour. The design follows a traditional Swahili style, spacious, clean, and beautifully detailed. Honestly, we couldn't fault anything about this place. It's actually lucky we did our research beforehand, because a lot of people head straight home after their safari. But adding a few days here in Diani Beach turned out to be one of the most unforgettable parts of our entire trip to Kenya. There are actually a few day trips you can do to nearby national parks from Diani Beach. We didn't end up doing any since we had already spent quite a bit of time in the Masai Mara and Amboseli. But one popular option is a day trip to Shimba Hills National Reserve, with plenty of tour operators offering visits. The park is known for its lush landscapes, and it's one of the best places in the region to spot elephants. When you come to Kenya for safari, you'll most likely need to fly into Nairobi, Kenya's capital city. It's definitely worth spending a few days here to explore, as there are a bunch of activities on offer, and one of the true highlights is the Giraffe Centre. Originally established to help protect endangered Rothschild's giraffe, the centre is both a conservation and education facility. It was founded in the 1970s by the African Fund for Endangered Wildlife, with the goal of breeding and reintroducing these giraffes back into the wild. The main attraction is a raised feeding platform, where you come face to face with giraffes at eye level. When the Giraffe Centre was first established, there were fewer than 130 Rothschild giraffe species left in Kenya. Thanks to decades of conservation efforts, that number has grown significantly, with around 1,500 now found across Kenya and Uganda combined today. Another great place to visit in Nairobi is the Nairobi Arboretum. It's a peaceful green park right in the middle of the city. And one of the most memorable parts of visiting is the wildlife you'll find wandering freely, especially troops of vervet monkeys. There's so many here, swinging through the trees, playing along the paths, and occasionally getting a bit too curious if you're carrying food. It's a simple but enjoyable stop in Nairobi, especially if you want a relaxed walk in nature without leaving the city. It's a great idea to spend half a day at the Giraffe Centre in the morning and then head into Nairobi Arboretum in the afternoon. That way you get two very different sides of Nairobi in one day. If you have a bit more time in Nairobi, then spending an afternoon exploring Karua Forest is well worth it. It's one of the world's largest urban forests and it feels completely different from the rest of the city centre. Without a doubt, the best place to stay when in Nairobi is the Westlands district. This area is full of shopping malls and nice restaurants. We stayed at the Best Western Plus Westlands Hotel. Now, one of the biggest downsides to Nairobi is the traffic. It's often ranked among the most congested cities in the world, and getting around can take far longer than you'd expect for relatively short distances. At times, it can be frustrating. That said, if you can try to plan your main sightseeing day on a Sunday, the roads are noticeably quieter, and the traffic is far more manageable. Now let's break down how much we paid in total for 15 nights in Kenya. And we'll start with the bulk of the cost, and that's the 9-day safari tour, which cost $2,500 per person. This figure includes everything: your driver for the duration, accommodation, park fees, and all meals. Next up, we have both the accommodation and flights to Diani Beach. We booked with full board at Diani Beach, meaning again, all meals were included. In total, we spent 4 nights in Nairobi, split between the beginning and end of our safari, which cost us $220 per person. And finally, we had our additional spending money in Nairobi, which included our meals to restaurants, transport fees, shopping, and activities. And in total, we spent $3,170 per person for 15 nights. And that's everything you need to know about booking an amazing trip to Kenya. If you've got any other tips or experiences, drop them in the comments, we'd love to hear them. We hope you enjoyed the video, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more travel adventures.